Hi everyone, welcome back to Daisy Asks. I'm sure many of you guys will be catching this on the replay because the timing is probably horrific for most of you, but also I didn't actually advertise that I was going to do a live today, which is all good. The reason I'm doing this live is because when I record them and edit the videos, it just takes me forever because I'm a total perfectionist. So this forces me to just be me and include the ums and ahs and not fuss around for extra hours. So today's video is going to just be me ad hoc talking. Hey Charles, nice to see you. How are the kittens? I hope the kittens are okay. Thank you for being my solo chatter right now. What are you doing up anyway? It's a strange time to be up for you, right? So what I want to do today is return back to the KnowledgeC data. And I didn't think I'd need to do that because, goodness, we spent hours and hours and hours looking at this several weeks ago. And I think we kind of concluded that chapter. So today I'm coming back to it just simply to reiterate, I suppose, some of the things we discussed previously, not new findings, but a reiteration of some of the important findings. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm still hearing a lot of misinformation about the phone data. And I guess I don't really want to always be calling out misinterpretations of things because I think we're all open or welcome to have our own interpretations. But I suppose when those interpretations just don't add up, they don't actually align with the facts and the data, I think that they can skew our perspective of what happened on that day for the girls and even sometimes skew our own perspective of the girls as well. Sure, Charles. Then you can have your interpretations too. Absolutely. But I did many, many, many hours looking at the data line by line, looking at Apple iOS information. Gosh, just literally asking so many questions. You will see the whole evolution of those ideas if you ever watch the whole series of lives. But one of the things that I like to do is kind of work through that whole process here on my lives. So you see that whole process in action. I hope, therefore, you see that I don't just settle at the first answer I come to, that I do revise and evolve the ideas as more information comes in and as you guys make comments and chat with me. Ultimately, I will stick with what I think is adding up most with the research at the end of the day, but I absolutely appreciate having lots of other people asking questions and kind of having their own take on this because that helps me to refine my ideas. That sounded like I just said, like, ultimately I'll just do my own thing, but I didn't mean it that way. I just meant that, like, I do end up landing in a position where I'm confident about what I'm saying. And I really was super confident about the KnowledgeC data and still continue to be. And so I guess in summary, what were my conclusions about the KnowledgeC data? Well, number one, yes, Charles, whatever, I do what I want. Exactly. My way or the highway. No, I think everybody knows here that I'm happy to hear everyone's opinions and I will absolutely seriously take on board questions, critiques, and ideas. But ultimately, if I do still think my theory holds up, I'm going to stick with it. I am. I'm going to back myself. And I'm sure some people who watch this will be happy that I say that because they've encouraged me to do exactly that. You know who you are, my friends out there who are always really supportive of me being me. So, anyway, let's get into it. Charles, it's just you and I today chatting. Everyone who's watching the replay is going to be like, it's just a dialogue between the two of us. So please, sorry if I do ignore a little bit. Oh, hey, Donald. Yay, we have someone else in here too. Charles says, if I feel right, I shouldn't back down. Yeah, no, I won't because I do like to kind of stick by my ideas. But I always like to also let everyone know that my ideas don't just come from the top of my head. I do lots and lots of research. that goes with them. So yeah. Okay, let's get into it. So what did I say about the KnowledgeC data? I said the cold shock theory. Everybody knows about the cold shock theory. If you've watched my channel, I unofficially trademarked it. That doesn't mean anything, but essentially, we believe, or I believe, that the phone does actually die at 5:45, and then it flickers a little bit and therefore reconnects to the server very briefly at, I think it's 4:33. I still remember those times, but if I get a few wrong, please forgive me. But essentially, my theory there is that the phone's lithium battery is affected by cold. And when the cold affects the lithium battery, the battery becomes unstable, the battery charge appears to drop, the phone dies. Essentially, the battery hasn't really died, but it continues to be unstable, and when there is a period of stability, it may try to attempt to reboot. And I think that's what happened at 4:33. This isn't magic. It's actually backed by science around lithium ions. I'm not going to go into that in super detail now because we've done a lot of hours of talking about that. Today, I want to focus more on the GPS coordinates because this is an area that even the state's digital forensic expert seemed to not fully understand. Bold statement, I know. I should have done the disclaimer. I'm not a digital forensics expert. I'm just a person who loves researching things. I'm like a dog with a bone. I don't give up. I like to find patterns in things. And so I really kind of analyze the KnowledgeC data from a behavioral kind of standpoint, trying to kind of use it to map onto what was kind of going on, but also looked at Apple information and information about lithium ion batteries and all of that sort of stuff to come to the conclusions that I came to. But ultimately, everything I say is my own opinion. I'm not a legal, I'm not a legal expert. I'm also not a digital forensic expert, but I still stand by my ideas. But just wanted to make sure that everyone knows this is just for educational and discussion purposes. It's not constituting any expert advice. Okay, so why am I getting back to this? Because I've heard people talk about the GPS coordinates as though the GPS coordinates that we see in the KnowledgeC data are actually indicators, or the only indicators of the girls' movement and positions that day. Now, they're the only visible indicators because they're the only timestamps locations that we have. But that doesn't mean the girls aren't moving if we don't have one of those GPS location timestamps. Now, Charles, because you're the only one chatting right now, Donald's there too. Why are there only some GPS location timestamps on KnowledgeC? I feel like I'm a teacher here asking a question. Does anyone know? So Cecil believed that the timestamps appear every time the Snapchat app is being used. But, ba-bong, wrong. That's actually not true, because if that were true, then every single time we see Snapchat in the foreground, there should be a GPS coordinate. What in fact is true about the iPhone and the KnowledgeC data is that every time we see a GPS coordinate, it means there is an app that is using probably the camera in this case. There could be other things that use location services, I suppose, but in this example, the GPS coordinates are linked to camera use. The camera being employed by the app, I suppose, is probably the best way to describe it. So every time on the KnowledgeC data set you're seeing GPS location coordinates, it's because the camera has been employed. It's not because we're just snapping and chatting and things like that. And it isn't this real-time log of the girls' movements, because otherwise we would have more points. That's what we would see more in a geofencing kind of system. So if we did ever get to see the geofencing report, we would see more real-time GPS coordinates that would kind of mark their way around. So basically, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook will only show GPS coordinates if the camera is being used by the app. So when they're sending a snap, when they're doing a video call, things like that. The health app doesn't actually show the GPS coordinates, it shows the movement starts and stops, right? So we're going to pull up the KnowledgeC data spreadsheet and just have a quick look at this. And I'm also going to pull up Google Earth. Now, anyone who's watched my whole series on KnowledgeC, Libby's phone, all of that stuff, this is going to be just the same old, same old. But the reason I'm doing this today is because I've heard suggestions that the GPS coordinates don't make sense, that the girls couldn't have been on the bridge, that the couldn't have been on the bridge when the photos were taken, that there must be other phones, that there must be phone switching between Snapchat, logging in and out of Snapchat. I've heard kind of indicators that this data is just absurd and it doesn't make sense, and yet it does. Now, if you watch my channel, that there are certainly absurdities in this investigation, but I just don't feel this is one of them. And additionally, I suppose why it gets to me so much is because sometimes if we suggest that like Libby had a burner phone, it suggests that Libby was doing something suspicious, and nefarious, and she wasn't. She was just a regular teenage girl. The apps she used, her activity on those apps, that was all really normal for a teenage girl. And yes, social media can certainly be a dangerous place for any of us. Oh, hey, Unindicted. Nice to see you. Welcome. But I don't think that Libby and Abby in this case were putting themselves in a more dangerous position than most teenagers are doing. They weren't likely to have a burner phone or be doing anything really suspicious or dangerous. Now, even if they were, it wouldn't mean that we wouldn't still feel the utmost of empathy for them. But I still just think that the girls deserve to have their story told with the utmost of accuracy. Now, I don't think that the girls would have had a burner phone. I don't see a reason why they would have. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why I think it's just one phone, the phone that we're aware of, that took all of the Snapchat images, why that missing Snapchat is, why that snap photo is not in the cache, etc., etc. Okay, so we're going to go into that. So that's kind of my viewpoint. Another reason I get stuck on this stuff is because when we say things super confidently on our channels or on social media and we speak with authority, people listen. They do. And so my concern is that if we speak with authority about something that isn't true, we're going to misguide a whole lot of people. And I really try not to do that here. I mean, I do speak with some authority about things at times, but I try to always be tentative. So I guess I just want to really kind of recognize if you are ever hearing me or anybody suggesting it's so obvious and you should know this, to me that's a little bit of a red flag, because if it were that obvious you would know it, right? So I hope that you guys never feel that on here. I never want to try to talk down to anyone. I never want to unintentionally talk down to anyone either. But when you're hearing it when you're hearing information told to you in a way that suggests it's like a duh, you should know that. The problem with that is that it will start to subtly erode your confidence in your own judgment and opinion. Okay. So just wanted to be mindful of that, because I've definitely experienced that before, where people are telling me that I'm just obviously wrong. And then it really makes you go, well, if it's so obvious I'm wrong, then I must be really wrong. But don't trust that, guys, because sometimes the people who think you're obviously wrong are the ones who might be wrong themselves. Okay, we've talked about this before on our live chats. Sometimes the less we know about something, the more confident we are, and the more we know about something, the less confident we are. And I would totally buy into that. I feel like I've been more confident with things that I don't have expertise in. I think I've told you guys this before. When I'm doing stuff on the phone and things like that, I feel like a lot more at ease. But when I'm doing the forensic psych or clinical psych stuff, I get so stressed because I'm like, oh, I'm not saying this exactly accurately, if that makes sense. So anyway, just a point that I wanted to make. Yes, unindicted. It really is. Sorry, I actually don't have your comments on stage, guys. Here we go. I don't like dismissiveness. So if I ever do that, guys, please tell me, because sometimes we slip into it. Like, definitely, I think any of us can fall prey to that when we're like, but I know it and it's so obvious to me, so it should be obvious to you. But a lot of the time when people are saying things are super obvious, it doesn't mean that they are. Oh, quietly. Lovely to see you. I'm so glad you caught the live. I thought this was an insane time to do a live, but the reason I'm doing it is because if I record this and try to edit it, it takes me like triple the time because I'm such a perfectionist. Charles says, one does not simply dismiss Charles. No, I don't like simply dismissing anyone. I hate the sort of like hand wave. I don't know if any of you guys caught my short a few weeks ago, and it's a Alanis Morissette song. Hey, Dave, nice to see you. And it's called See Right Through, I think it is. And I'm a big Alanis fan. You know, she was big in the day when I was kind of early adolescence, and I just loved it. And she really like this whole kind of quote from it was just like, it's just peak like my personal experience. They're like kind of hand wave. Yes, Jag a little pill. But the song, what does it say? The one that goes, I'll see right through you. It says, she says like, wait a minute, man, you mispronounced my name. You didn't wait for all the information till you turned the other way. And essentially, like, that's how I have felt. And I'm sure a lot of others of us have felt in our lives, where it's like, but you're not even listening to me. So yes, I don't even know why I got onto that, but I did. Okay. Oh yes, we were talking about dismissing and hand waving. Apologies, guys. I'm all over the place. I know I apologize for being all over the place because, again, I just feel like I want to be so much more organized, and I'm not, because I really want to do these videos as the ideas come to my mind. And so sometimes they're just not organized, and today is not organized. But I know this KnowledgeC data pretty well now, so I felt like I could wing this one a little bit. So I'm going to try to do some myth busting again about this idea of burner phones, the idea that the girls couldn't have taken the photos the way that they did, the fact that the positioning of the photos doesn't make sense, all of that stuff, right? I totally understand that it's confusing, the Snapchat image not being in cache. I also was not sure about that. But when you look at it all in detail and stuff, I think you start to see that there probably are pretty simple reasons for why it's not in the cache. So, okay, I've talked a lot. Let's get the data up again. So we're going to get back to our trusty KnowledgeC data set. And I'm going to make just a few different points today. I don't have slides, but just a little bit of revision of this. Okay, so what I've heard mentioned has been, so let's go down a little bit, guys, to the 13th of February, 2017. And we're looking at the known Snapchat photos on the bridge. Okay, so we've got the 205 one, and then we've got the 207 one. Oh, goodness. I just skipped through. So that's these two. Now I'm going to pull up the location. So we've got two lots of location timestamps. This means that the camera is being used. Sorry, I'll just get comments off for a bit while we're doing this. Oh, thanks, quietly. I know I never believed I would do this. Like, I always wanted to do YouTube, but yeah, in this particular genre, it's definitely a lot more stressful, that's for sure. Okay, so thank you. I really appreciate, I've just had so many wonderful comments in this last week, and even beyond that. But Yeah, and yours was one of them, Kylie. It was lovely. Thank you so much. It means the world. So let's look here. So the 205 Snapchat and the 207 Snapchat. So the fact that we've got location timestamp here and here, and we've got Snapchat in the foreground just before it, means that these are two times where they're taking Snapchat images. Now we have this one in cache, that's the empty bridge, and this is the one we have a screenshot of from someone's phone, which is Abby on the bridge. Now I'm going to show you where these GPS coordinates are to show you that they're actually not in weird places at all. So let's bring up Google Earth. Now Google Earth, guys, I simultaneously love it and simultaneously can't stand it because it's fiddly. But anyway, okay, here we go. So the 205 image, that's the image of the empty bridge. You can see here the location coordinate is on the Monon High Bridge, right? And I always forget, is that photo facing that way or that way? I can never remember. Let me know if you can remember, guys. But basically, either way, it doesn't really matter. I think it's that way, right? Does anyone remember? All right, anyway, we'll get back to that. So that's the first photo, and then 2 minutes later, this is the location of the phone when the photo is being taken of Abby, which again tracks with where Abby is. I believe Abby's standing somewhere around here, isn't she? And I think Libby's supposed to be here on this platform taking the picture. So it's definitely over the water though. So essentially, those two coordinates are exactly where we would expect Libby to be. And when I say exactly, we mean within a radius, right? So facing away from the red gate. Oh, okay. So is it getting the south side of the bridge, maybe, Charles? So maybe the two girls are here, they're taking a picture there, and then Libby walks over here and gets Abby to pose and takes a picture there, right? So you can see here that the KnowledgeC data timestamps, timestamps very much match with where those photos are taken. Now, remembering that the radius given, so we'll go back now to the KnowledgeC, and the accuracy radius is precision within 5 meters. Now, I mentioned this last time we talked about this. That is with 68% confidence. So that means there's a 68% chance that the phone was in 5 meters of that coordinate when the photo was being taken. Okay, so why is it 68%? That's just what they do with the location timestamps. I can't remember where exactly I read it, but that is a confidence interval. I don't know if that's from Google and whether that applies to all of them. But anyway, regardless, even if it was 5 meters, we're still fine. It makes sense. They're on the bridge within 5 meters of that. So essentially, as well, other really important thing here is the actual coordinate doesn't need to be the exact moment that the shutter is kind of clicked or whatever, that the camera kind of takes the photo. It's just when the camera actually is employed and kind of updates its location. Oh, hey, Anders, nice to see you. Good to see you here. So what I'm saying here is these coordinates don't need to be exact, but they need to be, somewhat sensible. And of course, when we look at Google Earth, as we just did, and I'll go back to it again, those location coordinates are sensible. They map on approximately to where Libby would be when those photos were taken. So there's no anomaly here. So this was the first kind of myth I wanted to bust here, that these location coordinates for the photos are not weird. They're not suggesting that the girls are over here when they're taking this photo. They're not suggesting that there's two phones. In fact, they're very consistent with it being the same phone, because when we look at the KnowledgeC data, we see the two Snapchat events at the exact right times of those photos. There's the 205 and there's the 207 one that we've seen. Now, that brings us to the next issue. Why is this one in cache and this one not in cache? Now, this one's a tricky one to explain for sure, because on first look, you're like, but the others are all in cache. Why is this one not? It's a Snapchat story, so it should have been uploaded to cache, and yet it isn't. So let me read this out, because this is one that this is one I prepared earlier, but no, this is one that I don't know off by heart. I did a video on this ages ago, and I'm not even sure what I said back then, guys, because this wasn't a big point that I explored in a lot of detail. But let me just go back. I'm going to turn my camera off for a minute. You guys don't need to watch me reading this out. I get self-conscious after a while, guys, when I'm on the camera, particularly when I can't see what I'm actually doing on the camera. Okay, so bear with me. Sorry, guys. I've always got too many things I'm reading here. There is a good explanation, though, for why the Snapchat is not in cache and why that isn't suspicious, okay? So bear with me. So let me know your thoughts, guys, so far in terms of the coordinates for the 205 and the 207 photo. Hey, Beasley, nice to see you. So as far as I can see, those coordinates map on pretty well to where Libby would be with the phone when she was either preparing to take those photos, or did take them. There's nothing suspicious about those coordinates. And remember, the phone doesn't update coordinates for every step of their movement. It only updates coordinates when the camera is being employed by one of the apps, i.e. in this case, Snapchat. Oh, goodness, guys, I'm going through too many notes here, and I am struggling to find what I wanted to read out to you so I could be accurate. So give me one sec. Here we go. Okay, so the missing snap. So at 2:07, we see a Snapchat event here. So this is clearly taken from Libby's iPhone, as is the 2:05. They're not two phones here, guys. You could technically log out of Snapchat on one and then log into Snapchat on another device, but then you wouldn't have the coordinates both showing on Libby's device. There's just the whole point is that this is the phone that's employing the camera app. That's not going to sync to another phone. So this here is actual evidence that the girls took those two photos, or Libby took those two photos on the iPhone that was found at the scene. So there's no other phone taking photos on the bridge that we are aware of anyway. Yeah, quietly. It's hard, right? Like, a lot of us don't. Like, I definitely didn't. Like, I've used Snapchat a few times, but I certainly don't know the technicalities of it that well. And as yes, the whole point is that the pictures disappear. So here's the thing. So when you take a picture, and this is just what I'm learning now. So when you take the picture, it uploads to the server and it saves as a temporary file in cache. However, that file in cache eventually gets cleaned up and deleted. So you guys will probably all have that on your smartphones now. Like, you can clear cache on an app. So you can manually do it. But apparently, as far as I'm aware, there are cleanups that occur just through the Snapchat app. Don't quote me on that one, but I think that's what happens. But yeah, so realistically, the photos do disappear after one or two views if they're a direct message, or after 24 hours, I think, if they're a story message. So that is the whole point of it, for sure. However, they can be saved in cache, sometimes for longer. And the whole kind of, I guess, issue people have with this, and I was in this boat too, initially, when I didn't kind of have too much understanding of it before I kind of did some deep diving, is that the 207 photo is missing. And of course, the experts didn't explain why at trial. So we've already determined, and I don't like to be disparaging of the experts, but we've determined that there was a gap in knowledge already, that GPS coordinates are not logged every single time you use Snapchat. They are only logged when the camera is employed. And likewise here, there was no explanation provided as to why that photo wasn't in cache. But here I'm going to try and provide it. But again, guys, this is technical. I'm still getting my head around it, but it makes sense to me. But I'm just going to see if I can convey it in a way that makes sense. So the issue isn't a failure to upload. The snap made it to the server. We know that because there is a screenshot of it from somebody's phone. I can't remember who it was who screenshotted it. I don't know if anyone remembers. Was it Bree? Was it Rayleigh? No, not Rayleigh. Bree, or was it Kelsey? But someone basically took what am I even saying, guys? It's late, guys. It's 9:30, and I worked today, and I didn't sleep well last night because, as a lot of you guys know, we had an unfortunate terror attack in Australia overnight last night. Hey, Mustang, nice to see you. That was really, really shocking, and I doom scrolled for way too long last night. So really, really sad events that happened any of my Australian viewers, or any of my viewers who've been affected by that, any of my viewers who are in the Jewish community, I'm so sorry. What a horrible, horrible event. But yeah, I didn't get enough sleep. And then I just worked a long day too. So apologies. I'm also probably more scattered than usual for that. So basically, the issue here is an interruption during what they call the cleanup process. So the first snap that we look at here, the 205, was stable. The first snap finished uploading and cleaning up completely while the phone was unlocked. So that's considered what they call a stable file. It's sitting in the cache waiting for a later scheduled cleanup, which never ran because the phone died or the cleanup just didn't happen. But snap 2, the second snap, at 2:07 was still in the middle of its final process, upload complete, delete the temporary file, or something like that. Actually, probably would be delete the temporary file. But anyway, save it to cache when the phone locked immediately. And after that, the phone isn't engaged again. So basically, oh, thanks, Anders. Yeah, it was pretty horrible what happened. Yeah, it doesn't directly affect me. I don't live anywhere near that area, but I do have a friend who does and who's part of the Jewish community. So really sad, and just sad anyway, just really sad that human lives are taken in such a destructive and horrible way. And it was just too much footage. I should stay off X when there's things like that, because you just see all the footage coming up and just watching these men just cruelly pulling out these guns and shooting at people. Like, it's abhorrent. Anyway, I digress. It's really sad. So yes, Sanders, we're talking about the photo of Abby on the bridge that people say can't be explained. So the explanation is, and actually again, you'll see this in the KnowledgeC data. So this is how it makes sense to me. So you'll notice the 205 one, we've got phone unlocked at 204. We've got a location timestamp. You can see here at 2:05:08. Now that doesn't correspond exactly with when the photo's taken, but when the location updates. And then we have screen off and phone locked, right? So in that time, and then we have the cache item 2 seconds later. So basically what's happened is that while the phone was unlocked, it's been able to kind of gauge the location. It's been able to upload to the server and create a file for cache, which shows up here. But when we look at the 207 one, the phone isn't actually unlocked for long enough for that to happen. So in this case, it's unlocked at 2:07:08, and the Snapchat app is in the foreground 2 seconds later. 10 seconds after that, it's not in the foreground and the phone is locked and the screen goes off. And you see it's so short, it's so brief that even the GPS timestamp happens 2 seconds after the phone is locked. Now, I think this is the whole point, is that it's still an incomplete process when the phone is locked. It's uploaded to the server, but the file is unstable because it was still firming up location and all of that stuff. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm explaining that in a very useful way. Yeah, so many weird things that have been happening. Yeah, just seeing you guys talking in the chat. Goodness. Yeah. So point being, guys, with the Snapchat, can you see how, like, in the 205 one, everything's all happened and done and dusted by the time the phone's locked. So the image is then cached a couple of seconds later. But in this second case, the image hasn't even actually looked, I don't even know what I'm saying again. Sorry, guys. The image, so they've taken the picture, but the location hasn't even updated until after the phone screen has gone off, until after the phone is locked. And therefore, I think this is why it doesn't have the opportunity then to create what they call a stable cache file. Okay. If you're interested in learning more, hey, Kelly, so nice to see you. If you're interested in learning more about this, guys, find your friendly AI servers. Take this little section here, like do a screenshot of this section here and put it in and explain the circumstances, and it will explain it back to you. But basically, it's not as weird as it seems. So an image not being in the cache doesn't mean anything nefarious, because generally speaking, you'd either have to delete the entire cache, I think it's pretty hard to just delete one image from cache unless, again, you're some sort of Snapchat or iOS kind of genius. Okay, so nothing odd here about those two photos. Those two photos did actually happen at 2:05 and at 2:07, and they happened on the same phone, and that is Liberty German's iPhone that we all are aware of that was found at the scene. Okay. Oh, goodness. Yeah, sorry, Charles. That's terrible. It's a lot, Anders. I mean, I was terrible at understanding it too. I didn't even approach this stuff to begin with until one day I was like, oh, okay, let's try and understand it. I can't take credit for this spreadsheet. I believe Yellow Jacket is the one that created this, or at least that's where I got it from, and it's awesome. But yes, like if you watched my lives about this that were probably about 2 months ago, remember that was when I was on holiday last. That would have been about 2 months ago. It took me hours and hours and hours of going through it and then revising and then going back to it and revising. I made lots of mistakes along the way. It's a lot. But essentially, what I'm saying here is that there's solid, I guess, data that supports that there were definitely two Snapchat images captured on Libby's phone, and they were at 2:05 and 2:07, and they correspond well to the locations on the Monon High Bridge. So if you hear people say, no, these must have been taken on different phones or the coordinates don't make sense, I'm not sure what they're referring to, because these coordinates, as we've seen on Google Earth, absolutely match. In fact, all of the coordinates that we see that are listed here, which, like I've said before, are not moment to moment coordinates, they're just coordinates when the camera's being employed, they match really well with what Kelsey says and what we know is the timeline of the girls up until the Bridge Sky video. So we'll just go back to those again. Give me a sec. So if we go right back, and I've mapped all of these coordinates on this map, so you'll see all the little dots. So we'll go right back. Oh, I've got to zoom it out a little bit more. So, goodness, where am I looking? Have they disappeared now? I can't find them. Maybe I've opened the wrong one. All of a sudden, I'm like not finding them. But anyway, Google Earth literally betrays me every time, guys. Oh, hey, here they are. Here they are. I just wasn't zooming out far enough. This is the problem with Google Earth. Why is it this tiny little screen? Is there a way to make it bigger, guys? Does anyone know? Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. But anyway, that's okay. I don't know how to make it bigger. But anyway, so if you actually plot all of the coordinates during the time that the girls are in the car, they map really well onto, basically leaving the Paddy's house, driving all the way to the trails. Now, there are absences in between, not because there's something suspicious going on. Yeah, and I think that's the point. It's like, yeah, there's nothing here in this data to suggest that it was two phones. If it were two phones, you wouldn't have those two Snapchat events showing on the KnowledgeC data spreadsheet. That's the issue here. And that's why I wanted to really talk about it again, because it's important that, I guess, we really want to stick with what the data shows, because otherwise I think we can fall into territory where we're kind of misunderstanding. And I think the thing that really worries me about that is that we don't get clarity about what happened. But secondly, there's suggestions then, I guess, that the girls are doing kind of suspicious things kind of out of the normal realms of what teenagers do. And I don't believe that teenage girls get burner phones. I don't believe that teenage girls are being fussy about logging in and out of Snapchat on two different devices. I think they would just use the one device that's logged in. I mean, my friends even now would do this, and certainly as a younger person, where we'll just use one phone if one person's taking the photos, and then we just share the photos, like I don't see the reason you'd be fiddling around with logging in and out of a phone. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to clarify that. So when we have gaps in these coordinates, it's not because the girls disappear or levitate or float, like it's nothing absurd like that. It's just that they're not using any app that employs the camera for a period. So that's why you get gaps. We can't see them specifically get to the Mears entrance. But the reason that we're pretty sure they do is because we see Kelsey's car on the Hoosier Harvest Store footage. And then we also see that by 1:51, the girls are here, which is very consistent with them being dropped here at the Mears entrance at 1:49 or 1:48, right? I think it's 1:49. And walking here. So nothing suspicious here. The only thing that's suspicious here, guys, and it's nothing to do with the data itself. I don't believe the data is suspicious, but the behavioral interpretation of it is this point here, because we have these two timestamps here, and these are indicative of a Snapchat event using the camera, and I think most likely a video in this case. This is a 1:51 Snapchat video that I've talked about before. And I speculate that they have sent a video because this is the one time where we see a start and end coordinate. So let's go back to this. Go back to 1:51. So what we see here is a bit of an anomaly in the data because we've got timestamp and then time location end, which suggests that the camera is employed for a period of time, and we don't see that on the photos. So that seems to be more in line with actually being able to take a video. And so if the girls took a video at 1:51 in response to a notification, I've made a little bit of a suggestion around what that could mean, but of course that's speculation. But to me, given that nobody's ever come forward and said that they engaged in a snap, or received a snap video from the girls at 1:51 when they literally were on the 501 headed to the Monon High Bridge, to me that's the more suspicious thing. Yeah, so quietly, that's kind of what we're talking about. It's that the coordinates do match with the one phone. So I'm not sure what's being referred to there because the coordinates absolutely match. So if we go back to this tab again, and we go down here. So what we're talking about in terms of the coordinates of when those photos are taken, this is the location, which is exactly where we'd expect the phone to be located. I mean, not exactly, because nothing's exact here, but roughly within that sort of 5-meter radius. This is, I mean, yes, of course she's not off the bridge here, but remember this is a radius, right? It's not complete accuracy. But yeah, this would be approximately where she would be when she took the 205 photo, and this is approximately where she'd be when she took the 207 photo. So just don't be alarmed by the fact that the points are off the bridge and things like that, because there's room for error, and particularly when we're kind of in this sort of remote area. Now, the other thing that people make a lot of interpretations of is the fact that we have another coordinate here, which I don't know if I've actually mapped it on here. Oh, yes, I have here. So, oh, no, that's a private drive. Sorry, guys. No, I haven't mapped it on here. But there's two coordinates around the time of the bridge guy video. So let's go to that too. Sorry, I'm going all over the place, guys, and feel free to ask questions or comment too if you are not following. A lot of this is stuff that I've talked about before, so that's why I'm probably going a bit quick over it, but absolutely totally fine to slow down if anyone has any particular questions. But if we go back to the KnowledgeC, so what happens here is you get two location timestamps. Now this first, can you guys hear me? I hope my sound hasn't gone. So it's a browser's lost connection to your screen share audio. Oh, that's okay. I'm not sharing any audio. Can you guys hear me still? Just let me know in the chat if you can hear me. I don't know why it's saying that. Oh, cool. Okay, you guys hear. Cool. Perfect. I don't know why it was like stressing me out on StreamYard. So yeah, here we've got the bridge guy video, and you got this location timestamp near coordinates. This is the weird coordinates that are like near, I think, the high school. And then we've got this one, which is the one that we see that's right at the end, the south end of the bridge. Now, what you'll see here, though, is it says low accuracy data, likely from cell towers. Now, we know that there is one cell tower that basically covers that whole area, and that's why cell tower coordinates are not going to be helpful. There's no triangulation, whereas this one here now again is relying again upon I think it's something within the iPhone itself, and I can't remember exactly what it uses. Don't don't know the technical term, but this is then 30 meters precision. So again, if we go back to Google Earth, we've got, this is the timestamp coordinate that I would trust, not the other one, because the other one is the cell tower one. And you can see here, it says within 30 meters of the location. So this is where Libby's standing when she first starts taking the bridge guide video. So if we measure that to that, you can see it's like 12 meters. So it's accurate, right? So whether that spot looks like it's off the bridge doesn't actually, oh gosh, what am I doing with this, guys? I hate this. There we go. Okay. But basically it means that she would definitely be in the right range to be taking that video. So there's nothing here that suggests anything strange about coordinates, guys. I really, I really want to kind of highlight that, because like I've literally plotted these coordinates and there's nothing indicated on the KnowledgeC data that suggests that any of the coordinates issued on February the 13th don't make sense. And there's nothing here to suggest that any of the photos that we're aware of from the phone that day were taken by another phone. In fact, there's pretty clear evidence that those two photos were both taken on this phone, because we can see the Snapchat app in the foreground, timestamp, cache, Snapchat app in the foreground, timestamp, just no cache. And the reason for that being that there's a lag here, that the phone is locked quickly on this occasion, and so there isn't a stable cache file. So I think that's a pretty good understanding of, like, I think, like when I was reading that, because I got that from Gemini AI today. I've been using some different AI platforms, getting some different ideas. But yeah, it makes sense. It doesn't seem particularly suspicious. But even when I put this through ChatGPT and Perplexity AI, they've all concluded there's nothing particularly suspicious. But when I use the AI platforms, I always ask lots and lots of questions to clarify that I'm not missing the point, or that it's not just agreeing with me. And I mean, it makes intuitive sense to me that if the timestamp is occurring after the phone's locked, it seems like Snapchat just hasn't had a chance to create the cache file stably and save it there. And so it's been deprioritized, I suppose, or deleted, or whatever word they use. So the other thing about the three phones, now that we're kind of talking about it, let me pull up another window. I tried to get all of this stuff up, guys, but then I was working and I think I've opened other stuff in the meantime. So have I lost what I was trying to show you guys? Yes, I think I have. Yeah, ChatGPT is my favorite, Anders, generally. But that said, sometimes when they do the updates of ChatGPT, it really pisses me off. It will start to become like really annoying. It sounds terrible, and it will confabulate. So you must double check and ask it, are you lying to me? Because it definitely likes to lie occasionally, unfortunately. But I think if you ask the right questions and you double check it, it usually does come to some pretty helpful conclusions. So next thing I'm just going to do is open up the cast stuff. Now I've only got this as a Word file, and I don't think I'm going to share it on the screen. Oh no, actually I will. I'm going to try to. I always forget how to share a Word file, so just give me one sec. No image file. It's saying image file. How do I share a Word file? No, I don't know how to do that. Okay, sorry guys, I don't know how to share it, but this is on the actually, you know what? I will make it a picture file and then I'll be able to share it. So I'll do that. But yeah, definitely ask away if there's any questions. Today really is about, I guess, some myth busting, and really don't mean any offense by busting myths and suggesting other people's analyses may not be correct. Like I honestly don't want to constantly do that. But in this case, I just feel like if things are not factual, then like we kind of need to talk about them. And so everyone's welcome to debunk me as well. If I'm not being factual, let me know, because there's definitely times where I've said things that didn't end up being factually correct as well. Okay, so here it is. Perfect. I managed to do it. Thanks everyone for watching, and everyone who's lurking, feel free to come and say hello. We're a friendly chat in here. So this is the cast stuff that we have, which is very limited because I don't even know that the defense ever got the full cast report. Now, these are the three phones, maybe, that sometimes people are referring to when they're talking about the three phones at the crime scene. How I interpret this, and I could be wrong here, but how I interpret this is that there are three phones that ping, and we've got direct times in which they ping, right? Um, that basically suggests to me that these three phones aren't staying in the area. They're singular pings at three different time points. So they don't belong to Libby. So they're not Libby's phone and they're not Rick's phone. And they're not a phone, from what I can see, that stays in the area for an extended period of time. And so, as such, these three phones, they're not super useful. Okay. That's my overall summation. I heard that, Anders. I think that's in, is that in like it's a document about Ron Logan, isn't it? Like the search affidavit or something? I'm not sure. I haven't looked into Ron Logan too much, but I have heard that. But I think that pings later. So I think that pings around 10 something. But these are the ones between 12 and 5 something. So they're kind of saying this is within the kind of crime window. And they said there were 3, and it almost seemed like this would be super suspicious. But the way that this is written here, now, of course, I'm not suggesting what's written here is a full report. It isn't. We don't know what the full report says. But the look of this with the coordinates and the timestamps looks like these just pinged at singular points. And I've heard people say that these three phones are not actually relevant. And I don't believe that they necessarily are, because if they have figured out who these belong to, then, then if they were relevant, okay, probably shouldn't go to that extent, because remember, they don't always do what's relevant here. But yeah, I don't believe these are attached to any known suspect or even person of interest, in terms of the people we think might be a person of interest. I don't think they're attached to any of those people. And so it makes sense to me that if we're just getting one ping, not time spot, in those vicinities, they're wide ranges as well. There's not always the best accuracy out in those sorts of rural areas. So to me, that's probably just people passing by. It could be someone like at the cemetery. It could be someone working on the properties around there. I don't know. And look, it would only be speculative for me to guess that. But realistically, this isn't 3 phones belonging to Libby. It's not 3 phones attached to Libby. It's 3 phones that ping at random. One I think is at 12 something, one's at 3, and one's at 3:30 something. So definitely, something that they would have looked into, given that they are close to the crime scene, and the ones around the 3 o'clock mark particularly. But I don't think that panned out and gave them any additional information. So that's all I could think of with the 3 phones. I think that's everything that I wanted to say. Oh yes, one more thing I wanted to say. So the other thing I heard, and it made me wince a little bit, was that it's confirmed that the girls were sending illicit photos to people. Now, I haven't seen that in any official document. I've not seen any official document that suggests that the girls were sending illicit photos to peers or anyone else. I've heard people say, well, Kegan Kline said that Libby sent him photos. Do we really believe a word that Kegan Kline says? Like, honestly, Kegan Kline is somebody who catfished juveniles under false pretenses. He's not really somebody whose word I would sort of take at face value. And the reason I think it made me wince is just, it's not, look, if the girls did, that's totally fine. People, oh, hey Anna, nice to see you. People do that, of course, right? And if they did, like, there's no shame about that. But I also don't think that we can accept that as a fact if we don't actually have any evidence that suggests that. Anyone who watches my channel knows I'm dubious about the Kegan Kline link altogether. I just feel like there is no indication, at least in the Snapchat, the KnowledgeC data of communication with Keg and Klein. We've never heard about any actual specifics about messages that were sent. The defence clearly didn't have anything specific that they raised when they were talking about third parties. Now, there could be something there, but the fact that Keck and Klein was property was searched in 2017, and I think that it was linked to the fact that he was in the area known to some of the juveniles who were engaging with the Anthony Shots profile, and then it was left, suggests it wasn't relevant to the murders of the girls. Now, of course, again, this investigation has many, many issues, right? But I guess that was an FBI aspect. So, is it likely they didn't follow up if they really truly believed that Keck and Klein was related? Now, also, look, this is all just speculative stuff, guys. I'm not saying this is fact, but yeah, it just makes me sort of doubt Keck and Klein's actual involvement in this. And that's not me sticking up for Keck and Klein and saying that he's a great person. It's just saying I don't think that he's involved in this crime. And the other reason for that is based on his, I guess I'd say his psychological profile. And I don't mean that in the old sort of theoretical profile, but more what the data shows us, that the majority of CSAM and catfish type people are not engaged in do not engage in contact offences, at least do not engage in violent offences or murders. And with Keck and Klein, there's no history, as far as I'm aware, of violence or contact offences. And I believe, given that we have the PCA for Keck and Klein, he is incarcerated now. If there were contact offences, we would expect that they would be listed there in the PCA as serious offences. Keck and Klein just doesn't have the sadistic profile. That doesn't mean he's an upstanding citizen, but it means that I don't know for sure that Keck and Klein has any indicators that he would be the murderer here. He has other crimes under his belt that he's serving time for, though, of course. Look, anything's possible quietly, for sure. But I think my point really is that I wince when things are asserted confidently as though they are 100% factual. And this is the main thing. I guess I'm going to finish up in a minute, but one of the things I guess I've noticed in my life is that a lot of times I've been spoken to by people who are so confident that it's made me second guess myself. It eroded my confidence in what was happening. And unfortunately, the most confident voices are not always the voices that actually have the most factual understanding, I suppose. Hey, Jennifer, nice to see you. Jennifer, we were just talking about the three phones. So these three phones were the ones that pinged near the crime scene in that window. They were not Libby's phone and they were not Rick's phone, but they also, as far as I can see, now this is not a full report. This is a summary. We don't know if the defense has even seen the full report. I'd hope they have by now, but based on some of those hearings, I think around July, August of 2024, it's hard to know, but the way that they have a time-stamped ping and coordinates suggests to me that these are just fleeting kind of pings in the area. So what that would mean potentially is someone driving past, someone not right in that vicinity, because you'd expect multiple pings or a time frame of pings if they were there for longer. So I don't know. So and the tower for the trails, I believe it's Delphi, and the trails are mostly covered by all covered, by the same tower. Yeah, I agree. You would say libertarian. You're right. I know. I always say, well, of course, surely the police would have done that. But no, you're 100% right. We can't always draw conclusions from the investigation because there's a lot of leads that just weren't, didn't appear to be followed, that were kind of pushed to the side. Every single one, to be honest, that we can see other than Ron Logan seemed to be kind of not acted on in 2017. So yeah, that's quite possible. But that said, I don't probably my strongest belief of why I don't believe Kegan Kline is the offender here is more to do with his profile overall. And as anyone who's been watching some of my more recent live streams and videos, I'm increasingly convinced that the offender is a sadistic, an organized sadistic offender. Now, in the sort of traditional in the sort of day-to-day way we would describe a sadist, we would say, well, anyone who does something cruel and horrible is a sadist. But when we're looking at a sadistic crime scene, we're looking at a particular type of offender. It's a clinical kind of behavioral definition of sadism. And yes, Kegan Kline has done some incredibly deviant and horrendous things that are absolutely, absolutely, what's the word, that I condemn essentially. However, I don't think he's somebody who would be linked to the profile that we see. But no, totally, like everybody's allowed to have like their own kind of conclusions on it. The other reason as well, I don't know if I've said this in a video before, but even thinking about like whether Kegan Kline is like, a piece of a puzzle, is he part of the whole kind of organized crime unit? I think I just don't think that any big time organized crime would probably want to include Kegan Kline as one of their members, I suppose, or one of their people. What's the word? It's getting late. Co-conspirators, I don't know, because I think Kegan Kline would be a weak link for them. He's not somebody who is going to kind of fit into that narrative, if that makes sense. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I mean, look, I guess anything is possible, definitely. But I suppose just going back to the phone stuff, that's what I don't believe is possible is that the photos were taken on different phones. They both show up in the same KnowledgeC data set, which is the KnowledgeC data set for Libby's phone. Yeah. When did the bridge guy? I think, Jennifer, the photo of bridge guy came out within a couple of days. I don't know when the video was released. I'm always bad with these sorts of timeline stuff around like when they release different things. Does anyone in the chat know? Maybe not. Anyone got any questions about the phone, about the idea of the coordinates not matching, or the idea that there were more than one phone taking those pictures? Like, let me know. I really, truly don't think that the data aligns with that at all. I don't think that the data aligns with there being more phones. I'm not saying that means that there wasn't another phone there. It's just there's no evidence of that in this data and from the Snapchat and the coordinates. The coordinates very much match with where Libby would be located taking those pictures. So that's the main thing I guess I wanted to clear up here, is that there isn't any compelling evidence that Libby's phone couldn't have taken those photos. And really important that the GPS coordinates, it's not suspicious if there's gaps. They only show up when the camera app is employed. Yeah, no, I think I think you guys are right. I think it was 2019 press conference. Yeah, you'll say libertarian. Oh, I'm in warm shock on a diet. It's been sticky and muggy here. But yeah. Yeah, the 2019 conference, absolutely bizarre. Sorry, I just realized your comments are not on the stage as I'm talking to you guys. But yeah. Yeah, so look, we'll go back into offender stuff. We can definitely talk more about Kegan Kline. I did have a comment from a new subscriber earlier today asking about Kegan Kline and thoughts about that. And I think I've talked about it briefly before, but happy to do some more chats about that and the type of offenders that I think could have committed this crime. We had a really big chat about that over the weekend yesterday. Had a little floated a little new theory of maybe that was initially planned to be an abduction offsite, but that failed because the car pulled into the private drive and maybe found a gate. I haven't heard from anyone as to whether there was a gate there or whether it was locked. So we definitely can lean into some speculation for sure. I'll try to always caveat when it's speculation versus when it's more based on the data or based on research. And yeah, please let me know, guys, because one of the morals of today was like, I don't ever want to come across as I'm like, duh, why don't you realize this? Because that's the very thing that I'm trying to kind of work against doing. So yeah, let me know, guys, if any of that. Oh, spag bowl, yummy, guys. That sounds tasty. Well, I hope everyone's looking forward to Christmas. I have a week more of work. When I say a week, it's like 2.5 days because I don't work every day. But next week, this time, it will be holidays. I'm so excited because I love Christmas. It's the best time of the year. And I feel really sad saying that, though, because, of course, there's some really, really horrible stuff that's going on in the world and certainly in my own country in the last couple of days. Yeah, quietly, I hope so too. I mean, I think that I think that there's I think that geofencing is really going to answer some of the questions. And a shout out, as always, if I were ever able to get the geofencing data, I would love to help to look at it from a behavioral perspective. That's like we kind of did with the KnowledgeC, like try and piece together what's going on. What are the different people's movements? There weren't that many people on the trails that day. It would be really easy to isolate who's who. I mean, not really easy. Don't mean to say it would be really easy. There you go. Like saying it'd be so simple. It wouldn't be so simple in the sense that I could do it in a second, but I think it's something that if we sat down with some highlighters and some trail maps, yeah, we could absolutely do it. She did, Anders. So my point about the geofencing, though, it was one of the things I noted, and I don't know how this can be brought up. Obviously, I don't think it. I mean, a lot of the stuff with the appeal, it's tricky. I don't really know the difference. Well, I do know the difference now, but I don't fully understand the kind of constrictions of it. But Gull suppressed geofencing, and the argument was made for third party suspects, or not third party suspect, but essentially it was part of that. But nobody ever said the geofencing data could provide an alibi for Rick, because it absolutely could have. But I think because they had the anonymized data, they may have thought, well, it can't. But essentially, potentially it can, because if you get the anonymized data, it still tells you, phone A, phone B, or however they code it, and you'd be able to kind of plot the phones around. And if there's a phone that matches Rick's movements that day, then to me that would be an alibi. She can't actually, she can't suppress something that could be an alibi, right? Oh, we look forward to the Christmas video. I'll do some Christmas ones too. Get in the Christmas spirit for sure. Yeah, if anyone's interested in the geofencing stuff, we did cover that in the live yesterday too. Like we pulled up my old video about geofencing to talk about it as well. But essentially, if that geofencing data has Rick's phone in it, showing that he left the trails before the crimes, that's an alibi. I'm pretty sure she can't suppress that. But I think the biggest barrier to it all is that, from what I could tell from those July 31, August 1st hearings, is that the defense was still dealing with a piecemeal kind of information from geofencing and casts. And so they may only have had stage 1 geofencing, which is, and it's all anonymous. It won't say that's Rick's phone. But I think that if we had that, because there would be so few phones in that area that day during that time frame, you could match them up to the various witnesses, and you'd probably see that there'd be one phone that walks the path that Rick did and leaves the trails, and if that leaves the trails prior to 214, or even around that time, then that would suggest that Rick is not the offender. He can't be the offender if he's leaving during that sort of key window. So I agree with you, Unindicted. I think to me, that's fishy. I actually think that if Rick's phone is at home all day or off all day, that would be suspicious, and the prosecution would love that. If Rick's phone is at the trails during the key window, that would be suspicious, and they would love that. But if that phone does indeed show that he left well before the girls were murdered, then that would not be good for them. And that would be a good reason to suppress it, wouldn't it? And from what I heard I think there was an interview on Andy Cops's channel with Andy Baldwin, where it seems as though the defense didn't realize that they could use the geofencing to track Rick. They were focused on these 3 phones, and they were focused on third-party suspects. And I think that's where things went awry, because I think that they may not have realized that even though the data is anonymous, that combined with the tower dumps, if you put it all together, could have provided a behavioural timeline and potentially an alibi, and probably could have therefore helped us to firm up Rick's timeline. So I hope they do that. That information is in discovery, and like I've said before, if I ever got to consult on this case, I would totally love to look at that. Not that I'm saying I would ever get to consult on this case, but yeah. So USA, they wouldn't say that they have, but his data would be within stage 1 geofencing if indeed he took his phone to the trails that day. So it would be anonymous. However, that doesn't mean they wouldn't be able to still figure out a timeline. So let's put it this way. Okay, so let's say all of us. Oh, hey, Fishy. Nice to see you. So here's the thing. So let's say all of us who are in the chat now are all at the trails, okay? And we're all at the trails between the times of 1 and 2 o'clock. And they basically, the geofence gets the trails between 1 and 2 o'clock. There would be Big Fishy's phone, but it would be anonymous. So that might be 1. So Fishy's 1. Anarch's 2, Quietly's 3, Unindicted's 4, I'm 5, USA Libertarian 6, Kelly's 7. Charles, I think, is gone now, but he'd be 8, and he left early, right? So what you would see is, let's say we geofence. Let's say this chat here, this live, is a crime window, and we're not in a online space, but we're all in the same place talking. So we would have seen that if you go back through the chat history, that Charles left, about 40 minutes ago. I've obviously been here for the whole hour and 12 minutes. Some of you guys have been here for a few minutes, like Fishy's just arrived, or at least just started talking. So basically, and there's others here, guys, we see you, 22 people watching. So all of our phones would be in that data. Stage 1 would just label us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to however many people have been in here over the course of the hour and 12 minutes. So it's probably more than 22, because there'd be people who've popped in and left as well. So let's say it's 40 people who've watched this at some point in the last hour and 13. We just lost someone. They don't want to be seen on the geofencing. Only joking, guys. We can't geofence. I'm being silly. But essentially, so stage 1 would just tell us that within this area of this conference we're having here now, there were 44 devices. Device 1 might be me, stayed in the same spot for the whole hour and however long. Device 22, that's Fishy, only arrived at, in my time, Australian time, 10 o'clock. So essentially you would see these little pings, and they would give you a kind of, it's not going to be like a complete trail. It's going to be like dots and pings at various points. And I forget what leads to a ping with geofencing, but it's kind of various different actions on the phone. So basically what you would see then would be all of those different people. Now, then, if we all gave statements to the police, and I said, well, I was there the whole time because I was chatting the whole time, and I keep bringing you in, Fishy, because you were the last person to join. Fishy says, well, I was only there for the last 15 minutes, and Unindicted says, well, I came in, at the 45-minute mark, and Charles says, well, I left at this mark. So then you'd be able to like pinpoint and go, oh, well, okay, that must be Bree Wilbur. We go back to this case, and that must be Bree and Rayleigh because they're together, and there's 2 phones together, or there's 4 phones together, and that must be Betsy Blair because the phone seems to come back at certain times. And so basically, then you'd be able to plot them all out, and you'd be able to start going, okay, let's rule out all the different phones and who's who. So that spit out, though, is massive, and it would take a lot of organising. And we know that the defence, I don't think the defence had a whole lot of digital forensic hours at their disposal, right? And so they may not have had that information kind of looked at. But additionally, when you go to stage 2, you can then widen the area. So we can now see, where was I before I came here? Where was USA Libertarian before they popped into this chat, and where did they go afterwards? And then stage 3, so at stage 2, it would be more information, but it still wouldn't say USA Libertarian. It would be number 25 or whatever number that you are, and I'd be number 1. And then at stage 3, they can then say, let's uncover who phone number 1 is. Yeah, so you'd have like a kind of identifier number, and then the identifier number can be traced for a larger radius at stage 2, and then at stage 3 we can say who is identifier number 1. So phone number 1 is now Amy G. Oh, okay, so Amy G was the one that was here the whole time, and before this she went there, and after she went there. But biggest issue here is that if you don't have stage 2 and 3 data at this point, it's probably too late to get it. Okay, and I think Jennifer is talking about the fact that they have stage 1 at those hearings around July, August 2024. But we also have tower data. So if you combined the two, the tower data has the IMEI or MEAD hex. It has other identifiers. So you could potentially cross-reference. I don't know how easy that would be, given that there's only that one tower servicing that area. And I believe it may even be the same sector of that tower. But that could help, again, also refine it and say, well, okay, it's still anonymous phone number 1. It matches what Amy's saying, but how can we prove it's Amy? Well, let's actually match up what the geofencing data says to the tower dump data. And that's IMEI, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yep, that's Amy G's phone. Does that make sense? So, yeah, like it would be a lot of cross-referencing and checking. It would take hours, but it can be done, I think. Yeah. So I think there's still a possibility here. And to me, I think it's one of the most, what's the word? I think there's a lot of hope here that if they look at that they might be able to do something with it. And that data is still there. It's not, that can't be lost because, well, okay, it could be lost because I further suggest that the phone info was provided in 2017, and I think that the cast report was done in 2019. I think they probably did de-anonymize the data back then, like as in they not de-anonymize. Sorry, I'm reading your comment, Fishy. I'll get back to that in a second. But yeah, that they I think they checked the phones back then. And that's kind of the point I made way back when I did a geofencing video, like probably 3 months ago. But Fishy, basically, without de-anonymizing it, you wouldn't necessarily have 100% confirmation that's Rick, but I think you could make a pretty good circumstantial case that if every other phone matches the timelines of everybody else and that matches his timeline, that was Rick. But yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah, and I think that if they did request that geofencing data earlier and and there were, I don't know, there was paperwork from that, it should be there. And if it isn't, then they could call, it sounds like you just pick up the phone and call in Google, but they could contact Google and request, what was subpoenaed by the state or by law enforcement. It's a lot, but I think it is technically doable. I hope. Sorry, Jennifer, I missed your question before, so let's have a look. So you said, so what's your opinion about the two phones turning into, let's say, one that you can text? Actually, it's two phones, but let's say when you text, it could go to one or two phones. I'm not sure, Jennifer. Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you mean in terms of the girls? Yeah. Look, I probably can't answer that. I'm not too sure about that. I think I'm just thinking, like if you have Apple stuff, which I don't have. I have Android, but I know that like I can get a message on, like my kids can get a message on their iPad, and if that's logged into the same account as a phone, the phone gets the message too, maybe. So I'm not too sure. So yeah, I'm not 100%. No, Jennifer, like no issues at all. I think it's just it's like I'm not too sure in terms of like the technicalities of that. Like good question, but I'm not really sure. I think usually though, it would be iMessage and things like that that could show up on multiple devices potentially. But Snapchat definitely couldn't, because Snapchat you can only be logged in to Snapchat on one device at a time. Okay, guys, it was so nice to see you all. I was doing a really random time, so I didn't expect anybody to actually be here. I just chose to do a live today instead of record a video, because otherwise I still would have been here editing a video anyway. So I was like, just do it, just bite the bullet. So yeah, I think that the FBI may have well, they would have been the ones. I think they would have been the ones to do the cast, but maybe not. I'm not sure. It'd be really interesting to see all of the phone information. The thing that gets me, right, is that they didn't use the geofencing information to firm up people's timelines. That doesn't make sense, does it? We wouldn't need to be worrying about, when Betsy Blair did which loop, or what time the other girls arrived at the trails, or who arrived when, because the geofencing, it wouldn't be the exact marking of everywhere they went, but it would give you a rough gist, kind of like what we looked at before of the pings of the GPS coordinates on Libby's phone and the KnowledgeC. It shows the rough overall picture of what was going on for them. I will do actually, Fishy, yeah, because I was just saying before, I haven't looked at a lot of Ron Logan stuff, if I'm honest. So yeah, that's definitely an area I haven't explored too much. So I'll definitely look into it for sure. All right, guys. Well, it's been a long day for me, so I'm gonna head off home and have a little rest, and I will see you guys soon. I'm thinking about what videos I'm gonna do this week. I don't actually know. I've always got new ideas, but now I'm feeling a little bit like tired because I did a few in a row. Let me know if there's anything you guys want me to do a video on. I've done lots. I've still got more, I guess, forensic psych ones to do. We can talk about Thomas Bruce. That's right. Now I remember. I'm going to do timeline. I'm going to go back over the timeline again, because our friend See-Through had a few questions. Hey, Rodstar, nice to see you. Yeah, we're just finishing up, unfortunately, but always great to see you. Definitely catch the replay. We were just talking about Abby and Libby and the phone situation, and the fact that really the KnowledgeC data of Libby's phone is consistent with having taken the Snapchat photos, and there's nothing odd about the coordinates or the photos there. That probably is just the one phone that took, not probably is, it's like highly likely it's the one phone that took all of those photos and snaps. Yeah, so yeah, by all means have a look at that. But yeah, so I'm going to go into the timeline. We're going to look at Rick's first interview, what he says, map that onto the trails, and figure out whether my not so popular timeline might possibly work. I still do believe it can. And we're also going to talk about Thomas Bruce and finish off Russell Williams at some point soon too. And then over the holiday period, Ash, myself, and two of our friends who I haven't actually asked yet, but well, they're my subscribers, so maybe they will listen to me. They probably don't listen to all my videos because they're not big Delphi enthusiasts. But we're going away. They're all into like spiritual stuff, and they have way better understanding of tarot and things like that than I do. So we're gonna try. Ash and I particularly, but even if we can get the other two, that'd be awesome. We're going to try and do a little panel discussion about possible symbolism and tarot. So, as you know, I don't think that the crime is motivated by tarot or anything like that, or by any sort of spiritual beliefs, but I think there is symbolism in the staging or the signature or whatever we want to call it, the tableau of the crime that looks very consistent with those tarot card poses, the magician and the hanging man. So I'm going to defer to my friends who know lots more about that than I do, because I've never really like looked at that angle, and they have, out of interest, aside from the Delphi case, they're a bit less biased than me as well. So we'll talk about that. That'll be between Christmas and New Year, because we're going away for a little retreat and fun on the beach. So we'll talk about that in between. And yeah, if there's any other clarifying things that you guys have, let me know. Always like feel free to put in requests if there's things that you want me to look into, and I'm happy to do that. Lovely to see you guys. Looking forward to seeing everybody else's videos. I know like quite a few of us are making some videos, so definitely check out Anarch and Kelly. And does anyone else in here who's in here now have a channel? Let me know. Guys, always share your channels too. You're totally welcome to share your channels in the chat. But yeah, if anyone wants to promote their channel, please let us know. Pop it in the chat and we'll all check it out and subscribe. Have a great day or evening, or yeah, day or evening, I suppose. That's the only two things. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.